The mullet. Anyway, hey there guys, what's up? It's Autobot Mike 18 here with another TV episode review. Guys, it's Sunday night, so what do you think I'm going to be reviewing in this episode? I do the same thing every week, guys. I'm like, what do you think I'm going to be reviewing this week? You guys know what I'm doing. It's a Sunday night, guys, which means it is Walking Dead night, and I just got done finishing watching the newest episode of The Walking Dead, and here I am to give you my thoughts on the episode in this entirely spoiler-filled review and discussion. Guys, this is episode 5, which means we have 3 more episodes to go until the midpoint of the season, and the way things are going, I honestly don't know where they're headed for a mid-season finale or what they're planning to do for a mid-season finale, but I'm pretty sure by the end of next week's episode we'll have a very solid idea of what is where they're going, what direction they're taking the show for the mid-season finale. Anyway, guys, tonight's episode was Season 5, Episode 5, titled Self-Help, and you know something I gotta really give Season 5 so far? I've really been liking the titles of their episodes because, in my opinion, anyway, they made the most sense in correlation with the episodes. Like, they reflect on what the episode means, and I like that. Like, this episode was called Self-Help. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, 4 Walls and a Roof. I really like stuff like that. The first episode was No Sanctuary. So I think that the episodes have been very well titled. But anyway, getting apart from that, I just wanted to make that known. Again, guys, spoiler filled. Going to go very heavily into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the episode, don't watch this. After you watch the episode, then come back and watch if you'd like to. Now, guys, tonight's episode, again, we're taking a break from the core group, which is basically Rick. Well, Daryl's not a part of it now because he's on the run with Carol going to find Beth. So it's basically Rick, Tyrese, and Sasha. We're taking a break from all of them. Carl, Father Gabriel. And now we're focusing on the group that is headed to D.C., which consists of Abraham, Eugene, Rosita, Glenn, Maggie, and Tara. The 6 of them are, remember in the end of episode 3, they loaded up the bus and they took off. They left Rick and the gang with the map that they're following to go to DC. And once this episode opens, they're on the road. They're headed out to go to DC, and basically they're just having conversations with each other in the bus. And Eugene continues to show his his entire intelligence over the other group, and the fact that he's very strange, and the fact that he loves his mullet. I mean, I don't know. I love the scene in the opening scene where Glenn's like, "So why the hair?" You know, I love that. Eugene is honestly, you know, he's obviously the weakest character on the show, and they really play upon that in this episode, and they give him some growth, which I liked, which I'll get into. But he's definitely the funniest character. Just his blank expression, the mullet, of course, his answers for everyone's questions or responses or whatever. I just love Eugene. I mean, he cracks me up every time he's on screen. And of course, you remember in the season 5 premiere where all the group, they were killing all the walkers off, and then I think it was Rosita who killed off that walker for him. I think, like, and he ran off like this was him. He was like, it was so funny. Go back and watch the first episode. You'll catch that. Anyway, so the group is on this bus, and apparently Abraham. Let me say this right. As Abraham's driving, apparently he crashes into something, and we're like, geez, Abraham, aren't you looking in front of you? Can't you drive a bus properly? There's a reason why the bus crashed, and I'll get into that. So the group awakens. They're being swarmed by walkers. They kill them all off. Tara is like guarding Eugene, and Eugene is like scared as all hell. The guy, you do not want to be alone with that guy in the apocalypse. I mean, granted, he supposedly has this cure, and that's why they're going to DC. But the guy cannot defend anything. Do not leave this guy up, like your life in this guy's hands. You cannot kill. Now, as the group gets out of the bus and they start picking off the walkers, I really got to praise whoever was doing the camera work. Excellent tracking shot as it goes from each group member. There was no cut. It was one long tracking shot. Each group member stabbing walkers in the head. Maggie has like a bayonet or whatever. And I thought that was pretty cool. Very good camera work overall in this episode. Gotta praise that much. Eugene actually attempts to kill a walker, stabs it in the neck, and then, yeah, it doesn't do much. And the group, kills them all off. They decide to keep going on, even though they just lost the bus. The engine sets on fire, and Abraham wants to keep going. Abraham is just absolutely insistent, and there is a reason why he is insistent on getting Eugene. Not just because he wants to save the world and finally get this cure out there, but there is a more personal reason as to why Eugene is doing, as to why Abraham is protecting Eugene as an insistent that they get to DC as soon as possible. And the reason is actually shown in flashbacks, Abraham's very own flashbacks. Beginning of the episode, we have Abraham kicking the crap out of some guy with like a soup can, just beating his face in the store, and I'll get more into that as the episode goes on. But anyway, it's night. The group finds a bookstore, I believe, to stay the night, and Abraham and Glenn have a very interesting conversation. By the way, the whole entire scene where they're in the bookstore at night, not well lit at all. There were moments where you could barely make out some of the characters' faces, and I know that it's nighttime and you're given the illusion that just moonlight is lighting their faces up, but I don't think they actually used the light. They had to have used some sort of other lighting material, lighting kit or something. I highly doubt they just decided to hey, let's point the camera at night, let's shoot this, and they didn't use any lighting equipment. They probably did, but it was just very, very dim, very hard to make out the scene. But Abraham and Glenn are discussing things, and Abraham's glad that Glenn didn't decide to leave, because remember earlier in episode 3, Glenn made a promise to go with Abraham if they stood to take out, if Abraham and his crew stood to take out Gareth and the others, kill them off, which is what they needed done. So that's why Glenn is going with them, and Abraham is very grateful for that. He still believes in this cure. That is the drive that is his drive, Abraham's drive at this point. He's lost pretty much everything, and his only hope is to get Eugene to Washington. And by far the funniest part of the episode, he just tells Glenn, he's like, I'm going to go get some ass. And then Glenn's like, alright, I didn't need to know that. So then he has sex with Rosita. And the two of them are obviously in some sort of relationship. And they're in the middle of it. And then Rosita stops and she's like, oh no, Abraham, he's looking again. And then Eugene looks over. And then Abraham looks over. Rosita's referring to Eugene. And Abraham looks over and he's like, oh, don't worry, he's in the self-help section of the bookstore or whatever. And then the two of them start cracking up and they get back to doing what they're doing. We get the shot of Eugene looking over the bookshelf at them. So funny. And oh yeah, that was helpful. And it's awesome how you hear Rosita moaning as Eugene is just staring, and then Tara comes into the scene and she's talking with Eugene, blah blah blah, and Eugene actually admits that he purposely sabotaged the bus and caused it to crash. Like I said earlier, it wasn't Abraham's poor driving, because how do you crash a bus like that? And it was very vague in the beginning. I'm glad they didn't show Abraham crashing into anything, and they didn't, obviously, because he didn't. It was what Eugene put in the gas chamber or whatever. I forget what he did. And Tara's like, why the hell would you do that, Eugene? And he admits that he wants to get to DC, but he doesn't want to get there right away because he feels he's very invaluable with the group, and that he's just not a physical threat, and he's not capable of surviving on his own. So he feels that once he gets to DC and he gets the cure, and they instill the cure or whatever, as soon as his part is done, he feels he'll be useless, and he'll just be like nothing. They would want to get rid of him because he's not valuable. The only valuable part of him is that he has intelligence and he knows this cure. But Tara assures him, no, listen, you're you're a part of this group, you're a friend basically, and then that's how that scene ends. And then Tara walks over to the bookshelf and looks over at Abraham and Rosita having sex. I thought that was pretty funny too. But anyway, so yeah, that's that. And then there was a scene, and this angered me, and this still angers me. There's a scene with Glenn and Maggie at night, the same scene set at night, and Maggie's just talking, she's like, oh, I miss them, and Glenn's like, they're probably behind. Maggie, why aren't you mentioning Beth? It's Beth! She mentioned her name once in the season premiere. Briefly, when the group was getting ready to attack the termites, in the opening scene of the season 5 premiere, the group was getting ready to attack the termites, and Maggie's like, what happened to Beth? And then Daryl gave an explanation or whatever. She hasn't mentioned it once other than that, and it's really starting to worry me. Do the writers care? I don't know. But anyway, moving on, for the sake of the rest of the episode, it's the next morning. Abraham is still insistent on moving on. His hand is bandaged. He messed up his hand when he was fighting off the walkers. It's all bloody or whatever. And the group spots a fire truck, and they want to use the fire truck as their vehicle to get on to DC. And Abraham gets it started. He's happy, but then it gets stuck. Whole bunch of zombies swarm them, and the group they're outnumbered pretty much, honestly. And Eugene's nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, fire hose goes off at the top of the truck, spraying, just unloading water on the walkers, just tearing them apart because they're so thin and gaunt that the water will just cut through them and just break them apart, so they just fall down and die basically. And I thought that was pretty badass. I really like that scene. I thought that was a pretty cool way to kill these walkers. It's something they've obviously never done on the show, and it's a very creative process as well. And there was another nice tracking shot after Eugene uses the hose, but I really liked that scene, and I thought it was a very creative sort of weapon against the walkers. And even though it could have served purpose as their drinking water, because they were drinking toilet water at one point in this episode, I really liked how Eugene used that. And it was especially Eugene, especially because earlier in the episode he had told Tara, listen, I feel invaluable, I'm not useful to this group whatsoever. But then he ends up killing walkers. We actually get to see him kill walkers, and it was really nice to see a change like that. So anyway, after that, Abraham fixes up the truck, the fire truck, and they get it moving, and I believe they get stuck again, and this is towards the end of the episode, and they decide to proceed on foot. Alright, so they're still following the same path they need to get to DC, and they stop at this mill/farm area, a lot of acreage, and there are dozens upon dozens, possibly hundreds of walkers off in the distance, and they're just very hesitant at this point. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to continue forward. They fear being killed off or whatever, and Abraham is still insistent on moving forward, following the path. Rosita's against it. Rosita backs down. Glenn is totally against it. Glenn backs down, and then at this point Abraham is just getting pissed, so he picks up Eugene and just starts dragging him another way or something. The group is all yelling at him. There's a whole bunch of frustration and just arguments and yelling and all that going on. The group, they're pissed. And in order to stop the arguing and everything, Eugene just comes clean with what some of us knew already, some didn't know who haven't read the comics, and others like myself already knew, even having not read the comics because of spoilers on the internet. Thank you, internet. But Eugene finally admits the truth that he absolutely has no cure whatsoever, and then the group just stops fighting. They're just silence, just utter silence. They're in absolute shock at Eugene's revelation. Eugene is trying to get to DC, but for selfish reasons. He needed a group to get him to DC because he believes there is a safe haven that is the safest place to be. However, yes, he does have increased intelligence. Does he have any sort of a cure or anything like that? No, he doesn't. And he admits that. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I knew that was coming because of spoilers on the internet. But I did not know he was going to admit it that fast. I was actually really shocked. I actually thought this group was actually going to make it to DC. But apparently they didn't. And now we don't even know if they're going to keep going. Because now what's the point? There is no cure. And Abraham is furious. And I would be pretty damn pissed off as well. I mean, that you spend all that time, they lost so many lives in their former group. They obviously had some sort of a group before their characters were introduced into the show. Lost a lot of people just trying to get Eugene to DC, and now they realize it's all a sham, it's all fake, and Eugene was just using them. He manipulated them, basically, and it really upsets them, and they're in absolute shock. Abraham goes off and starts beating the shit out of Eugene, punches him in the face brutally. His hand gets messed up again. Glenn, separates it or whatever. And Rosita just calms him down, and then he's just beside himself. So he walks off as they're looking at Eugene, whose face is just completely messed up, and Abraham just falls to the ground and starts crying. And now I'm going to get into Abraham's flashbacks, which I've hinted at. Basically, guys, throughout the episode, we get several flashbacks of Abraham's past life. Obviously, probably a few weeks, months before this apocalypse started. Months ago, I'm talking about, right when the apocalypse, probably right around when the apocalypse broke out. Abraham was in some sort of a store. Apparently, he had to kill some evil guys with the soup cans to save his family, including his wife Ellen and his 2 children. And apparently, they went to sleep, and the wife decided to leave him. I guess they were horrified at what Abraham had to do to keep them alive, probably because this world is brand new to them, and they were just terrified. Abraham goes outside the store and finds their dead bodies. Obviously, zombies had eaten them, killed them, eating their flesh, whatever. Abraham feels that at this point, towards the end of the episode, where we see the end of Abraham's flashback, Abraham feels there's no point in going on. He takes a gun, he's about to shoot himself when he hears Eugene screaming, "Help, help me!" And he turns around and it is Eugene, and he's being chased by walkers who are very slowly running after him and not even attempting to bite him when they're right there. So Eugene runs over, kills all the Abraham runs over, kills all the walkers. Why do I keep mixing up their names? And saves Eugene. Eugene thanks him, and then he's like, "Where are you going?" And Abraham just isn't responding. And then Eugene stops him and says, "Wait, I have a mission for you." Abraham turns around and looks at him, and then the episode ends. That was how Abraham and Eugene met. And that's the really interesting part. Now, this episode did an amazing job at developing Abraham's character, giving us a backstory on him. I was waiting for that, because ever since he was introduced, we really didn't know anything about him, other than the fact that he was a sergeant. He was hell-bent on saving Eugene, on bringing Eugene to DC. Now we know why. Abraham was at his lowest low once his family died. He was ready to kill himself. Now he saves Eugene's life, and Eugene tells him, "I got a mission." Abraham's like, "You know what? I'm going to make the most of my life, and I'm going to get this guy to DC." Now, Abraham finds out it's all a ruse, and Eugene was just using him to further save Eugene's life, to just get him to DC, because Eugene believes that DC, there is a safe haven there. He just wants to go there and stay there. He just doesn't have a cure. Now Abraham sort of has nothing to fight for now. It was Eugene that Abraham was fighting for. Now there's no point, and Abraham nearly wanted to kill Eugene when Eugene revealed the truth, because Eugene saved Abraham, but he sort of just stabbed him in the back and used him, absolutely used him. And it's actually really smart writing, and I really liked that revelation. I thought it was revealed a little too early, but now the group may not be going to DC. I kind of wanted them to get out of Georgia and just go into DC, just to change the scenery a little bit, but now it doesn't look like that's going to happen, so that's a little unfortunate. However, I am glad that has all been revealed, and I appreciate that. But very good job developing Abraham's character, and now a lot of questions are left up in the air. Is Abraham going to stick around with Eugene and Rosita? Is he going to go on his own path? Is he still going to go to DC? Are they still going to go to DC anyway, just to, I don't know, maybe see if they can find a cure, or find someone who knows a cure, or something, I don't know, or just go there because Eugene claims that it's a safe place to be or whatever. So that opens a lot of questions. Also, the same thing with Maggie and Glenn and Tara. They were part of Rick's group, well, Maggie and Glenn were. They just left their group in trust of Eugene. And now it's all sham. So now a lot of questions are left up in the air. So that was tonight's episode, guys. And I think they did a really good job developing Abraham. And although this episode only focused on their group, I think it was Abraham's episode, and I'm glad we got a backstory on him. I'm glad we have a reason as to why he's been hell-bent on keeping Eugene safe. And we also got a little development into Eugene and the fact that he really doesn't feel valuable in this world. And I like that because everybody else is a really good zombie killer, and Eugene sort of isn't. They're able to defend themselves. Eugene can't. Eugene's very terrified, and he ends up using others for his own advantage. And even though he's not surviving in the apocalypse the way everyone else is physically, mentally he's playing everyone. He played everyone to get him as far as they did, and now however, now he revealed everything. Now we don't know what's going to happen to him. But I like that. I like how they have a character who's not physically strong in this apocalypse, and even mentally strong in order to kill these zombies. He's just terrified. And I like that. In terms of their chances to develop Rosita, failure. I mean, Rosita's just, at this point, I don't think she is going to have any development. I think she's just there, a side character, has sex with Abraham's girlfriend in this mess. That's it. But this is Abraham's episode, and overall, I enjoyed it a lot better than last week's episode, by far. Just a lot more exciting, a lot more happened, not only in terms of zombie kills, not only the fact that I like the fire truck scene with the hose and everything, and I just like these characters a lot more, and they're a lot more exciting, a lot more was revealed, the whole truth with Eugene was revealed, and we look into Abraham's backstory, which I like. And Abraham is a very interesting, compelling, very physically strong character, and I like that. So, all that being taken into account, there were some really nice tracking shots in this episode. The music was good. I'm going to give Self-Help a solid 8.5 out of 10. Not as good as the first 3 episodes. Still a little weak. There are a few slow moments in this episode, and there's moments where you're like, come on, keep the show going. You don't need these moments like, there's a scene between Maggie and Eugene quoting something from the Bible or something, and that just wasn't necessary. So you have stuff like that in the episode. And also the lighting in that one scene at night, very bad. Other than that, I have a few complaints. Overall, it's exciting to have the story focus on this group for this episode, but I think Rick and Daryl, they're just a lot more interesting characters. I mean, of course we have Glenn, but Glenn wasn't the focus in this episode. It was Abraham. And even though I liked Abraham, he's not Rick or Daryl for that matter. All that said, though, decent episode, guys. Not the best of the season, not at all, but enjoyable. It furthered the plot definitely, and now we're at a bad spot, with our characters. What's going to happen next with their storyline? And I like where they ended it. I like the flashback, so I liked all of that. Overall, well written in that sense, apart from a few slow moments. So, guys, what did you think of tonight's episode of The Walking Dead? Let me know down below in the comments. Give me all your thoughts on the episode. And, thanks for watching. Next week's episode is going to focus on Daryl and Carol as their mission to go get Beth. That will pay off because it has 2 of the best characters on the show in the episode, so I think I'm going to enjoy that episode. However, it's just the 2 of them, so they got to keep it exciting. They got to have the dialogue riveting, and they got to have good zombie kills in order to keep it going. This episode was good, and it did that to an extent. So yeah. But anyway, guys, 8.5 out of 10 for me. What did you guys think of tonight's episode? Let me know down below in the comments. Give me your thoughts. Give me your predictions for next week's episode and the mid-season finale as a whole. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.